And of course, you've seen the story making the headlines throughout the day. The house of actress Terry Pheto going under the hammer. This follows, of course, the outcome of that damning investigation by the SIU. And they were probing, of course, the lottery funding. And the investigation found that her home was built with funds that were linked to siphoning of the NLC's grant funding. And of course, a lot of people talking about this particular issue. Let's find out if it's been sold, not. What happens now? We speak to the SIU spokesperson, Kaizer Kganyago. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, good afternoon and good afternoon to your viewers.
Has it been sold?
No. There were no takers, unfortunately. I think from what we heard, there were people who registered, about 28 people, but none of them put an offer on it, which is a very strange thing. But the house is still available. So
what happens now?
What will happen is now they will find other ways of dealing with the sale. All that we want is the money back so that we can take that money back to the lottery so that it is used for what it was intended for.
And, you know, when you talk about that, a lot of people still don't understand how far the proclamation goes and how far the investigation can go. They say that, you know, you think about the fact that all you want is the money, but people are still not in orange overalls. Why is the SIU not making sure that people are in orange overalls? So let's talk to someone tonight who's wondering that.
No, definitely they need to understand that we've got different mandates. Our mandate is to make sure that we fight corruption, investigate corruption, and recover the money. That is our mandate. Therefore, when we find criminality, we then take that to the National Prosecuting Authority. That is what our act says. And we take it there, they will decide whether they will prosecute based on the evidence that we give to them. And then in a case where the person is working for an institution of government, we refer that part, which is the disciplinary part, to them with the evidence, and they deal with that. Therefore, everybody has got its own role.
There's something I found very interesting when I was looking at the information that was put out today, you know, basically compressing the timelines of how we got to this particular point. I remember last year when news broke, there was a statement that she had released and said that she was dismayed and all of that. But when I was seeing the latest timeline that was put out, that in January, her lawyers wrote a letter saying they're not contesting the preservation order. Was that an admission of guilt? What happened there?
When we do a preservation order, it is done without the knowledge of the people because we do not want them to hide the things. Once they are preserved, we give them an opportunity to defend themselves, to come and explain their side of the story. Therefore, if they decide not to come and defend, it means that our story is the right story, and then we continue. That's why the continuation that is happening now.
Is that why it moved so quickly? Because others are wondering what happens then with the other people that have also been kind of linked and there were preservation orders against them. So is that what fast-tracked it?
Yes, because they have already come forward to say we are not contesting it. Therefore, it means the freezing order is now not contested. But with the others, they are contesting it, then we'll take it through the process of a forfeiture order. And once that is done, then we'll take the property.
I'm going to ask you this question. I know you laugh because you always do when I ask you this question. Who else are you looking at now when it comes to the investigations of the NLC? Because there's a lot of people and still a lot of names that are bandied about. And some of the names the SIU hasn't pronounced on them. So who else?
It's a very difficult question to answer because I always say that we do not give updates in as far as investigation. And the reason is things change along the way. But all that we can tell you is we've got thousands of NPOs that we are looking at. And therefore, all we do is to follow the money, and the money will lead us to you. Therefore, some of the people are already speaking on social media to say, leave me alone. And that is because we've already asked them the questions. And they already know that we are coming. We want to get answers from them. Therefore, all that they need to do is to give us the answers. Because we come, like in this particular instance, we come to you and we say, we have followed the money has bought this house. Tell us how you bought the house. And then you've got to explain yourself.
That's interesting. And then there's also Eskom. which is another investigation. And of course, you've seen the allegations in the public domain. I'll get to them in just a moment. But there's quite a lot of investigations into Eskom right now that you've been seized with, from the coal that is swapped to, trucking and the delivery of water. Also many things that are going on there. But now there's also even some preservation orders that you've managed to then obtain when it comes to the issues around Kusile. How far are you when it comes to investigations there?
Yes, we've got 3 proclamations in Eskom alone. There's one that was done, I think it's Proclamation R11, done in 2018. In that one, we're looking at the coal and diesel and the people who have not declared their interest and so on. And then we found other information. We did the 2021, which was dealing with the IT side of things. And now, in December, we got an extension again, which is Proclamation R97 of 2022. And that one is looking at other things like the movement of water and fuel and so on and so on. Therefore, it's a lot of work that we're doing. And the preservations we're talking about is in relation to that movement of water, where we had one of the officials, I think her name was Dudu Moyo, and she was involved with the company, giving them contracts, and she benefited to the value of about 24 million rand personally from these companies. And then some of these people in these companies took the money, bought lodges in Mpumalanga, and bought many other businesses, whatever. We have freezed all of those, and now we are taking the same process as we did with the Terry Pheto matter, where they will be given an opportunity to defend themselves. Once they've done that, then we will forfeit these properties, get the money back to Eskom, because Eskom needs the money.
And it's quite interesting. I mean, when you go through that long list of the stuff that's been preserved, cars, everything, it just boggles the mind as to what happened there. But Eskom is in the news currently. And there is, of course, that interview that the former CEO, Andre Terry, did, which really opened what others term a can of worms, while others say we've always known some of the issues there. You've been probing Eskom. I'm sure you would have had dealings with, and meetings with the former CEO. Did you know some of what he had to talk to? He talked about there. He talks about, allegations of that go higher up, of some people who are said to going to be allowed to eat in order to preserve the peace, if I may even put it that way.
Yes, we've had engagements with the former CEO of Eskom. From the beginning, when he arrived, we had a meeting I was in that meeting where we were briefing him about all of these investigations, and we have frequent engagement with him. But I can safely tell you now that he never told us about these ministers that are supposed to be involved in this. But now that it is in the public domain, it is of interest to us, because we are investigating under a proclamation, and this is the kind of information that we need to know as the SIU. And the head of the SIU, Advocate Mutibi, has instructed the investigating team in Eskom to call him and then make sure that he then gives us that information. He doesn't have to come because he was CEO, but he has made that kind of information available, and he needs to be called in to give us the information that we need, because we cannot ignore it because he's no more CEO, and that instruction has been made by the head of the SIU.
Was it not a shock, though, that you didn't know this from him, and yet you're hearing it in the public domain? It
was a shock, because we were working with him very well, and we were exchanging information, and even with the team at Eskom. But obviously, he might have his own reasons why he didn't tell us about it, because it was important for us to know. And as you might know by now, it doesn't matter what position you are in. If anything goes to you, we will come to you, and we'll need answers from you.
Very briefly, finally, let's talk about Digital Vibes. How far are you? What's happening there?
The Digital Vibes story is from where we are sitting. The report is done, given to the president. It's the only snag that we have now is that the former minister has taken this matter to court. We are waiting for the exchange of papers to happen, and then the matter will then go before the court, and we deal with that matter. But in the meantime, we have freezed the money that was in the Digital Vibes account. Therefore, they cannot use that money. We are following up on the recoveries that we need to do through the special tribunal, and then that process will continue to make sure that we recover all the money, if possible, that was spent on this contract.
So we could see some people who left the country come back?
Definitely, because in that one, we've already even made referrals to the NPA for prosecution. Therefore, it's up to them to take this matter forward. We know that they have already allocated prosecutors for it. We know that the Hawks are working on the investigation that side. Therefore, we're comfortable that something has been done.
Let's see what happens then. Thank you for coming in. It's always great to have people in studio and not on Zoom or virtual platforms. Thank you for coming. We do appreciate your time. That was SIU spokesperson Kaizer Kganyago.